Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to talk a bit about using blocks as props. I use these a lot in my practice, but there is something I wish I had done a little differently when I was choosing my props, so I'm going to talk about it. So when you're using a yoga block, there are 3 different settings that you can use. You can use it on its lowest setting, which is going to be the sturdiest because its largest surface area is going to be against the floor. You can use a medium setting, which will help you reach the ground just a little bit easier. It makes the ground a little higher for you to reach for certain things, and it uses its longer but narrower surface area on the ground for its contact point. So it's still pretty stable, but starts to get a little tippier. And then there's also its tallest setting, which is really great when you're doing standing forward fold type things where your balance might be a little off, especially one-legged standing forward fold type things. It gives you the most reach to the floor, but it's on its smallest surface area. So it can become a lot tippier, and these foam blocks, as much as they're quite a firm foam, after a while with enough weight put into them, they can start to kind of squish ever so slightly. That just adds to that tippiness. So what I wish I had done a little differently was I wish I had ordered the 4-inch yoga blocks. These are 3-inch. They're kind of the standard, but 4-inch just gives you a little more width so that when you're using that taller setting, it has a little more stability. It's a little less susceptible to the squish. Now I'm just going to run through a couple different times that you might use some of these different settings. So a couple of instances where we might use a block on its lowest setting would be when you're just sitting in easy seat, sitting towards the front edge of that block to give you that nice upright spine. For any leg outstretched, any kind of seated things, whether it's twists, forward folds, anything like that, these can be an option for sitting on if you don't have something else to use. Another instance we might use blocks, 2 of them on their widest setting, would be to help in situations like downward dog. Maybe downward dog's a little hard on your wrists, or maybe you don't have quite the mobility to get all the way to the floor. You can have 2 blocks about where your hands are going to want to land, flat on the floor. You can have your hands on the blocks, and you can come into a downward dog here. Instances where you might use a medium setting would be maybe you're doing a supported butterfly and your knees can only go so low, and so you can use the blocks like this. You might also use the blocks on this height for some low lunge leg kind of stretches like this. It allows you to stay a little more upright rather than having to round your back to reach the floor. You can keep a longer, more spacious spine this way. You might also use it on its tallest setting in a low lunge kind of position. And you can walk them back with you when you come into things like hamstring stretches in the half splits. The tall block height might be used for some standing balance kind of things. So for instance, you might be coming towards a warrior 3, and you may be at the point where you can get to a fairly horizontal back and leg, but your balance is a little lacking, and so you just want something to rest your hands on. You might also use 1 block height when doing things like half moon. Or you might be in something like an extended side angle where normally we'd be like this, or they might cue you to bring your arm down. That might feel like a lot, so you can have your hand on a block behind you. It allows you to keep your spine and side length long and straight without it being this really tiresome reach for the floor. So hopefully you found that helpful. Maybe you're looking at yoga blocks in a bit of a new light. Maybe if you haven't purchased one yet, it kind of gives you a bit more information when it comes to choosing whether you want to go with 3-inch blocks or 4-inch blocks. But either way, they are a great tool. I highly recommend getting at least 2 that are the same size, because as I demonstrated, there are times where we will use 2 blocks, and so it is easiest when they match, okay? So enjoy playing with your blocks, and I hope that it enhances your practice.